With more than 6,000 small and micro-cap companies listed, if you're looking for the next Apple at the earliest stage, then ChannelChek truly is the orchard. The listed companies support ChannelChek, so it's free for you, the potential investor, to gain access to institutional quality research from FINRA licensed analysts, advanced market data, industry reports, news, and a growing catalog of videos and webcasts. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and register for ChannelChek so you're always up to date on what's going on at the small and microcap data place. Welcome to the virtual Roadshow series presented by ChannelChek. This roadshow features David Raun, President and CEO, and John Morrison, CFO of One Stop Systems, NASDAQ ticker symbol OSS. Following a formal presentation by David Raun, he is joined by John as well as Joe Gomes, Senior Research Analyst for Noble Capital Markets, a FINRA-licensed SEC-registered broker-dealer, for a Q&A session featuring questions that were submitted by the live audience. You can find Noble's research on One Stop Systems on channelchek.com or by clicking the link in the description. With that, I am pleased to present David Raun.
Thank you, and thanks for joining us this afternoon for the Noble Capital Markets virtual roadshow featuring One Stop Systems. First, let's get the important disclaimers and cautions regarding forward-looking statements out of the way, and let's jump into this story. Again, my name is David Raun. I'm President and CEO of One Stop Systems, and I look forward to sharing this exciting story with you. Performance of the data center at the very edge. That's what we're all about. That's the AI Transportable edge. This is when AI can't wait for the cloud. If you think about it, for a long time, for decades, we've been talking about the cloud and the central data center. More recently, the focus has been on edge computing. That is because this is a fast-growing market that could be $40 to $60 billion in size over the coming years. It was only back in 2018 that 10% of the generated data was created and processed at the edge. It is expected by 2025, the data processed on the edge will be at 75%. We look at edge computing as three different key elements. First, data centers on the edge. These are very similar to the cloud or the data centers that we're all familiar with, but they've been brought closer to the customer or end user. They're in concrete buildings, they have air conditioning, and they rack and stack servers and storage systems. Many people can play. We do not focus here. Second area is all the billions of IoT devices. These can range anything from something on your refrigerator or washing machine to a factory floor. In general, they do not need a lot of performance, and they have no issue communicating up to the cloud. Where we're focused is in a space we call AI Transportables. We believe this is the fastest growing and most exciting part of this cloud edge computing space. It is all about bringing that data center capability all the way to the edge to each of these nodes. We're talking about high-end AI platforms that are transportable in harsh environments. They have to deal with heat, dust, moisture, vibration, and much more. Very different than the air-conditioned data centers on the edge in a building. But they still require the power of that data center at each node. This includes things like trucks, planes, medical equipment, and much more. They require the highest end commercially available products out there, but they need to be able to survive in this environment and perform. They have to be ruggedized. There's special form factors, usually very small form factors, that deal with cooling and power challenges and much more. One of the great examples, or one of the best examples of an AI transportable application is putting an entire data center in an aircraft. Although it may sound simple, there are many challenges with this. First of all, they want the highest performance. It has to be low weight for all fuel economy reasons and many others on an aircraft. It has to be a compact size. The cooling and unique power supplies come into it as challenges, and there's a constant vibration, which surprisingly can be very detrimental to electronics. This is all about taking action, needing to take action now. So if you think about the aircraft, it's collecting data, it's storing it, it's computing, and most importantly, it's taking action in the field, at the edge, when now is all the time you have. We call this AI on the fly. This is the power of a data center at the transportable edge. And the key thing is we're talking about performance without compromise at the very edge. We're talking about the latest technology, addressing these challenging environmental issues, and most importantly, allowing our customers to take actionable intelligence in real time at the point of data acquisition. What's the relevance of this? Well, let's look at two examples. A submarine hunter over the Pacific Ocean needs to monitor, process, store, compute, and act on the information if at a time of crisis. Or maybe that autonomous vehicle that you'll purchase 4 or 5 years from now, when a child steps in front of that car, there's no time to go over a 5G network, communicate back. That car needs to be able to take action now. We offer a number of building blocks to our customers. These include GPU compute accelerators, where we'll take the latest NVIDIA and AMD GPUs and pack them together for extreme high performance. Take very large amounts and high density memory, non-volatile memory. Servers of different types, highest performance, custom form factors, and many other dynamics, and hooking them all together with our network and expansive I/O. Again, I think the important thing here is performance without compromise at the very edge. We call this AI Transportables, and there's really two markets that we're targeting: industrial applications and the military theater. I'd like to talk a little bit about that. First of all, on the industrial side, it's a number of different applications. This ranges anything from autonomous vehicles, that includes trucks, buses, trains, aviation. The aircraft of tomorrow wants to process much more data than it does today. Media and entertainment, mining, agriculture, medical, and video surveillance. Now let's move to the military theater. Independent of the administration that's in office, the focus on the military spend is on AI, and it is making all these nodes smarter, and they will require the processing power that we can offer. This includes planes, mobile command centers, helicopters, watercraft, mobile radar, submarines, drones, and all different types of vehicles. So what's unique about OSS? First, our core strength over the years is being able to deal with advanced switch fabrics. Only the highest performance, most challenging switch fabrics that allows us to put all these components together and make them operate at the highest efficiencies. We leverage the latest technologies and deploy it in the harshest environments. What do I really mean there? What I mean is when one of the market leaders, say in a semiconductor chip, brings to market a new product, we find a way to bring that to the very edge because our customers want that performance. Unlike a lot of our competitors who will use a second or third generation old product. And we're very good at both standard and custom product designs. We work quickly with our customers and closely to bring these to market. When we talk about performance without compromise, we're talking about bringing that very high performance system into an environment with all of these challenges, ranging from size to weight, ruggedization, form factors, power supply, and cooling. Here's an example of an engagement with a customer, especially on a custom or semi-custom program. We work with them closely to understand the requirements, We do 3D layout and stress simulation to understand how to make a product survive in their application and deal with all the different dynamics. We seek the latest commercially available technology from market leaders like AMD, Intel, NVIDIA, and many others. We build the product so that it can stand up to these environments, but also produce it at a very low weight. Deal with the cooling challenges in design, conform to the transportable specs, deal with all the power supply issues, layer in our software and the customer's software, and that's where we bring our complete solution to market. So what about the market size? We believe this market is approximately 200 to 400 million today, but over the coming years should become a $1 to $5 billion business or market, which would be one of the fastest growing in the edge computing space. How did we come up with this strategy and focus on this area? Well, first of all, this is an area we're already winning. It is the highest value and repeat business that we have. It represents our highest margin business in the company. It is the fastest growing segment of the company, and it is a clear opportunity to carve out a leadership position. So the company, we're focusing on our energy to capitalize on this position and grow our position in this market. Today, it's about 20% of our revenue, and we believe we'll grow that to over 50% in the coming years and greater. We have a lot of great customers, and we're adding more to the list all the time. Now that we've really talked about our strategy, which we implemented back in March of this year to focus on AI Transportables, I want to give you a little bit of history and some of the transformation that's been taking place over the last 18 months to put us in this position. First of all, going into 2020, we had nice revenue growth, but the board of directors desired improvements on other fronts. This included stock performance, margins, profitability, cash, a clear market focus, and value proposition. So we executed a change. First of all, we made a change in leadership. That's when I came on board in February of 2020. COVID hit the United States pretty hard slightly after that, but we stayed focused on expanding our customer base for more diversity, so we weren't so dependent on particular customers. We reduced our spend by over $2.5 million and built a culture, and building a culture that takes pride in efficiency, expense reduction, and innovation. We reorganized the company, put more focus on not just revenue, but also on our value proposition, margins, return on investment, and profitability. Governance, we brought on 3 new board members, adding additional skills, more independence, while adding gender and ethnic diversity to match the requirements in California. And cash, we increased our cash position and exited the year in a much stronger position. I'm pleased to say we've addressed, or we believe we've addressed most of, if not all of these matters, but there's much more to do. 2020, though, was a year of change. We got hit hard by COVID, no doubt. We've identified over $14 million of revenue that impacted our business last year. Yet we took advantage of the time to improve the company on almost every other front. In Q3, we started to see the results of that. We had higher income on lower revenues. In Q4, we started to see the growth return, and we turned the corner. In all, for 2020, although the revenue was down because of COVID, we decreased spending by $3.3 million. Net loss improved by $900K. New customer revenue was up $12 million. Cash doubled to $6.5 million. We exceeded guidance all 4 quarters, and our stock price doubled during this period of time. So what are we doing in 2021? We're continuing to build the foundation and focusing on the strategic plan. First, we brought our cash position up to about $18.5 million in short-term investments in cash. And we launched the AI Transportable strategy back in March, which is what the main part of this presentation has been on today. As I come to a close of the presentation, I want to just bring to you the highlights of our strong Q2 financial performance. First of all, we had revenue of $14.9 million. This was up 28% from the year before. And once again, we exceeded guidance, this time by over $500K. Gross profit was at $4.7 million. That's up 40%, and we increased gross margin percentage by 260 basis points. Adjusted EBITDA, $1.4 million, up significantly, and we got to 9% of quarterly revenue. Non-GAAP net income also increased and also positive on GAAP. And as we've already discussed, our cash position is at $18.5 million, up $12 million from a year ago. So let's now move to the Q3 2021 outlook. We're expecting revenues at $15.9 million. That would be up 7% from the past quarter, 23% from a year ago, and we're setting up for a record year. The key takeaways of this presentation, what we're trying to do at OSS and we're focused on every day, is the AI transportable space, making sure that we deliver performance without compromise, leveraging our AI on the fly capabilities, growing our customer base, and hopefully we're building the trust of investors by some of the things we've done over the last year and the things we plan to do in the future.
Thank you, David, for that informative presentation. Noble Capital Senior Analyst who covers one-stop systems. Here are the questions I've selected from the audience as well as a few of my own. So David, you talked a lot here about the AI Transportables business, and you've talked about how what makes this such an attractive market. Can you talk a little bit more about what you see as one-stop systems competitive advantages here, and what does the competitive landscape look like? Who are the key competitors in this space?
Absolutely. Thanks for the question. First of all, our advantage is really the know-how, how to take the latest and greatest technology out to that very edge in that harsh environment. And what we see from a fragmented competitive base is that they tend to focus more on older generation products with lots of margin to bring it out there. And the customers we're talking to, which we think is the fastest growing part of the business, wants the latest technology. So that's what we're really doing, is bringing that latest technology that you might only find in the newest data center out to that very edge.
And who are some of the key competitors?
Yeah, this is a fragmented group. It ranges anything from competition of in-house design at a large customer to larger companies in the industry, which would include Mercury Systems, Curtiss-Wright, and others, and then some other companies that are either our size or smaller, which would include companies like Trenton, Crystal, and others.
Okay, thank you for that. And can you take us through the typical sales cycle? So, do potential customers call One Stop to solve a problem, or is it more RFPs that One Stop replies to? And once you see an RFP, how long till an award is actually made? Maybe you could talk us through that cycle. We'd appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, the sales process, we pursue customers in multiple ways. Historically, it's primarily been trade shows and asking customers what they would like us to build. We've expanded that to more of a hunting philosophy, saying, hey, we've won these designs in these accounts, in these applications. We clearly have an advantage over competition, so we need to actively seek out other companies in that and not wait for the lead. So that's number one. Number two, the sales process ranges on the commercial or industrial side anywhere from 6 to 12 months from engagement to maybe seeing some revenue, to the military side, which could be 12 to 24 or more months. And in that process, some of them there's formal RFQs and others there is not.
So you have been mentioning in your last couple of quarterly reports that you've been winning 3 to 4 million plus revenue contracts each quarter, probably for the past year and a half, let's say. Maybe you could talk a little about some of these key wins that you've made, and is there potential for any of these types of wins to turn into, tens of millions of dollar contracts for One Stop?
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. That's the type of wins we've had. The ones we typically announce have a value of anywhere from $1 million over a 4-year period to tens of millions of dollars in value. And I would like to highlight just two. One is a win in autonomous trucks. So these are trucks that have to drive from one location to another in autonomous fashion. We have wins in that area, and we have actually trucks on the road today with that product. That market alone could be very large for us. So that's number one. Second one is that, if you take like the military space, and I use the example of the data center in the sky, as far as revenue, what you're seeing from us, we're talking about, not the memory part, but the data center in the sky part of it, that has only been a little bit of revenue so far. So that could be very large, if we are successful at continuing to win those designs and they end up going into the aircraft.
Great. It sounds very exciting. Now, one of the things that we've heard and is constant in the news these days are supply chain constraints. Are there any specific components that you are having difficulty sourcing, and what is the effect on price?
Yeah, so there's no doubt. I mean, this is the common question everybody's asking, and it's impacting a lot of companies. We're not immune to that. We definitely see it every day, like everybody else. We see impact on both components and PC boards. At different times, the components tend to range from CPUs, GPUs to memory and other things. A lot of times what catches, I think, a lot of companies is just a random device. It may be an inexpensive product, but it's not available. So that's what's happening to a lot of people. What we're doing is, I think we've been very proactive. All the key strategic parts, we're making sure we have the orders in place. We're making sure we have the relationships. We're making sure we're in the background looking at alternative supplies. We're looking for different sources. And as a result, we have not come to the street and missed a number as a result of supply issues. And that's our intent, to try to keep that going. I will say one of the ways we do that is we manage our business. We don't go into a quarter assuming we will not have issues. We go into a quarter assuming we will, and that's going to have maybe some impact on the revenue. And so we reflect that in our number that we project to the street. On the price issue, we've seen price increases, but believe it or not, we continue to work on bringing price down wherever we can as our volumes go up or whatever. And the reality is that unfortunately, we do have to pass it on to our customers when there's significant changes, so that we maintain and grow our margins.
Well, we'll hope that the supply chain issues start to go away here over time. We've also seen other companies having difficulty hiring employees and seeing inflationary pressures on compensation. What experience is One Stop having here?
I've talked to a lot of people. This is a big issue, of course. We have not been impacted as much, and I think it's a couple dynamics. One is that I know a lot of people, I'm from the Bay Area, and a lot of people are moving from the Bay Area to Southern California. That helps our situation. We're located outside of San Diego, a very desirable yet cost-effective area called Escondido. That helps us. There's not a lot of other high-tech companies that they can walk to across the street. So, these are mostly people that have homes. And then for new employees, it's a desirable place for people to move. So fortunately, we haven't been hit as hard as other people. I would say, we do also have dynamics with, workers. We do manufacturing here, and so we need to stay on top of that and making sure we're being competitive on that space, and we try to be proactive in that area.
And you mentioned a little bit the impact of COVID in 2020. How is that impacting, especially here with the Delta variant? Kind of lingering or ongoing constraints of COVID, and how's that impacting the business?
Yeah, so as you referred to, 2020 hit us hard. Really, if you look at 2020, where we got hit hard is in the media entertainment space because of large gatherings with one of our large customers. The second space was aerospace because the commercial airline business was hit very hard. And then a few things where we had some maybe delays, not so much business impacted by just government agencies working a little slower than normal. What we see in 2021, COVID's still there, still impacting us to a degree, but to a much less degree because of the following. Number one is on the media and entertainment space. Our primary customer in the space has done an awesome job of pivoting to the virtual world. So the revenues, maybe they're not as big as they were in the past. They're not far off, and it's really all their virtual products. So eventually they'll come back strong, I believe, with their large gathering, but it's nice that they return with the virtual products. Second is the airline industry, which just disappeared on us last year. They're re-engaging, and although I think there's some, misguided upticks in that space, they're re-engaged with us. One of the dynamics is that they've let a lot of their people go, so they're looking for us maybe to do more of the work for them, and that's actually creating an opportunity. I don't think that impacts revenue in the short term, but it increases it in the long term and more activity. And then the government activity has been pretty much on track, and I think the one thing that we're proud of is we've been able to diversify the military business both within key accounts and other accounts, which has helped us spread it over the years, so we're not so back half loaded on our margins.
Okay, and you brought up about the media customer and some of the military, and so there's a question here regarding revenue concentration. In 2020, 2 customers accounted for about 24% of the company's total revenue. Can you talk a little bit about the revenue concentration? Do you think that you'll be able to diversify more, or as you delve deeper into the military, will that kind of concentration maybe go up? I mean, what are your viewpoints here on the revenue concentration, and how are you trying to diversify that?
Yeah, so a couple things, a lot of different moving pieces here. First of all, the revenue concentration of the 24% you mentioned in 2020 was down significantly from the previous year. It has actually come up a little bit because those customers are doing really well. What's different here, what we really want to point out, is that's the result of particular customers where we're selling more products in more applications, not being dependent on one. So from my viewpoint, that helps minimize risk with the diversity. But that all being said, because we want those customers to be strong, we are putting a lot of focus under diversifying both in the industrial and the military segment. We believe our military portion of the business will go from a 20-25% share to over 50% in the coming years, with the focus and the activity we have at other accounts. And I think a proof point of that is last year we brought in $12 million of business from new customers, and we'll continue to focus to make sure we do that.
And just backtrack here 1 second to the AI Transportable strategy. Obviously you did a big presentation. Where are you on the implementation and execution of this strategy, do you feel? Are you kind of like still in the first innings? Are you more moving towards the middle innings here?
So as far as implementing the strategy, we're maybe in the 3rd inning or something like that, 3rd or 4th. And what do I mean by that? We've identified the market. We've built a roadmap, identified products that the market needs. We're developing those, sharing them with customers, getting positive feedback. We're excited to get those into the marketplace because we think we'll get additional pull. We are changing our sales strategies, from the standpoint that I'm willing to invest more in the sales team now because I see the interest. So I've hired some additional salespeople. I'm bringing back manufacturer reps, which the company departed with many years ago. I understand there's a cost associated with it, but there's enormous value. We are picking reps that have positions and relationships in the target counts, and we call that hunting. And when I go hunting, I like to catch something. So we're working with them and partnering with them. So those are some of the things we're doing to move this thing along.
You mentioned that you've been improving your cash position. Debt is relatively modest. What are the capital needs here going forward, if any?
Since John hasn't talked, I'll let him address it.
Actually, we are not a capital intensive operation here. So it's basically consistent with what we have in prior years. We spend somewhere between $500,000 to $1 million a year in capital investment.
Okay, great. In the past, the company has made some acquisitions out there, and there hasn't been any here recently. Do you still look at M&A as a potential way to grow, or is it kind of more, we've got enough on the organic side that we really don't need to be looking at that M&A space right now?
Yeah, so definitely M&A is a key part of the strategy. That we never removed that. What we really did is try to put it on hold because, me coming in and working with the team, it was clear that we had a lot of fundamentals, a lot of blocking and tackling to take care of. The last thing we needed is to bring another organization, try to figure them out also. So that's what we've been in the mode of through 2020, and will continue to be through 2021. I think you'll see a change in position in next year on this topic. So we're looking into that, but we want to make sure that when we do an acquisition, it is clear to investors why we did it and the value of doing it. And our tendency would be, I'd prefer to do a decent sized one than a lot of little ones. So that may take a little time, but we want to make sure we do the right ones. I always like to say we're looking for the 1 + 1 = 3.
And one last question here in regards to investor outreach, attracting new investors to the one-stop story. How successful has the company been in attracting other investors into the one-stop story? And what else are you doing in terms of investor outreach to help get the story out and try and attract more investors into the one-stop?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So ever since the change in leadership in the company, we have received a lot more attention. We are actively engaged on a monthly basis with doing road shows. We are currently covered by 5 analysts who help us do not only participation in their own programs, but do help us set up non-deal road shows. So we are getting our name out there. It is not uncommon that we do a presentation nearly daily with somebody new and is interested in the company. Not only that, some of that interest has come because we are finally hitting metrics that put us on their radar screen. Once we basically went over the $100 million market cap, we were exposed to a number of more opportunities and a lot more interest. The other thing is that this AI Transportable initiative, where we look where we can dominate a niche and own it, has gained a lot of traction in the market.
Thank you for joining us for this virtual roadshow presentation brought to you by Channelchekk. View our YouTube channel for more video content, including C-suite interviews, virtual roadshows, and conference presentation replays. New content is added regularly, so subscribe below to stay up to date. Visit channelchek.com or click the link in the description to access equity research, news, and advanced market data on this and 6,000 other small and microcap companies.